He was frozen solid, barely breathing, half buried in snow outside the fire station. No one knew where the puppy came from or how he was still alive. But what one firefighter did next didn't just save the pup's life. It brought an entire station and one broken man back to life. The wind howled like a siren through the empty streets, sweeping snow in frantic swirls across the city. Inside Fire Station 19, the crew had just returned from battling a late night blaze, their coats soaked, boots heavy with melted ice. It was one of those nights where even the toughest firefighters craved warmth and silence. The overhead garage doors clanked shut behind the fire truck, and the engine's hum faded into the whistling of the storm outside. One by one, the firefighters trudged back inside, shaking off snow and steam. Laughter echoed faintly as someone cracked a joke about hot coffee and frozen toes. But then, a sudden stillness. A shift in the air. Wait, someone murmured to BY. The edge of the fire truck bay, near a drift of snow piled high against the concrete, something moved. A faint twitch, barely visible. One firefighter squinted through the snowfall and gasped. "Guys, is that a dog?" At first, it looked like a lump of dirty snow, half buried beside the garage. But as the firefighter stepped closer, his heart skipped. It was a puppy, a tiny German shepherd, curled into himself like a frozen ball. His fur was crusted with ice, and his sides barely moved with breath. He looked no older than a few weeks, completely alone, helpless in the bitter cold. "G'day. Blanket," the firefighter shouted, kneeling down. His voice cracked with urgency. The others rushed over. Someone tossed a thermal blanket from the truck, and they wrapped the pup gently, afraid he might break. His body was stiff, unmoving, and so cold it burned to the touch. "How did he get here?" someone whispered to no collar. "No tracks. Just a baby left in the snow." Outside a firehouse in the dead of winter point, one of the firefighters lifted the puppy carefully, cradling him against his chest. A faint, fragile breath ghosted from the pup's nose. "He's still alive," he said. Barely. In that moment, the mood shifted. This wasn't just an animal. It was a life hanging by a thread. And without hesitation, every man in that room knew they were going to fight to save him. Back inside the station, the firefighters sprang into action, moving with the same urgency they showed in a burning building. They cleared a space near the heater, laying down towels and blankets. One firefighter gently placed the puppy onto the warm fabric, his tiny frame barely making an imprint. "Get the med kit," someone called. Another brought a heated pad, wrapping it in cloth to avoid burning the pup's fragile skin. The men hovered close, talking to the puppy like he could hear them. Soft words. Encouragement. Hope. One of the crew brought a shallow bowl of lukewarm sugar water and dipped his fingers in, gently brushing them against the pup's lips. Nothing. Then, a twitch. A soft whimper, so faint it almost went unnoticed. "He's trying," said one firefighter, voice trembling. They checked his paws, raw and pink from frostbite. His ears were stiff, rimmed with ice. But his heart was beating. Someone wrapped their coat around him. Another rubbed his sides to stimulate circulation. These were trained lifesavers, used to emergency. But this was different. This wasn't just protocol. This was instinct. And for reasons they couldn't explain, every one of them was determined to bring this little fighter back from the edge. Among the team, one firefighter remained especially quiet, Jake. He knelt beside the puppy, his gloved hand gently stroking the tiny head dusted with melting snow. The others moved around him, but Jake didn't flinch. His eyes stayed fixed on the pup, as if trying to will warmth back into that frozen body. Jake wasn't the loudest in the crew, but everyone knew he had the biggest heart. Just last year, he'd lost his own German shepherd, Max, a loyal companion, who had seen him through divorce, tough shifts, and countless lonely nights. That pain still lived in Jake's chest like a hidden scar. But tonight, something shifted. As he watched the puppy struggle to breathe, something old and aching stirred within him. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. Jake didn't say a word. He simply reached forward, wrapped the pup tighter in the blanket, and whispered softly, "Hang in there, little guy." The firehouse, usually full of noise and motion, had gone still. Every eye was on the tiny bundle by the heater. Jake stayed beside him, gently rubbing the pup's side in slow circles, whispering quietly as if his words could anchor the fading life. Then, barely noticeable at first, the puppy let out a tiny, broken whimper. Jake froze. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. The others leaned in. The puppy's paw twitched. A small gasp, like the first breath after drowning, escaped his throat. His eyes fluttered but didn't open. "He's coming back," someone breathed. A ripple of hope passed through the room. It was fragile, but real. Jake smiled for the first time that night. He gently cupped the puppy in his hands, holding him close to his chest. "Good boy," he whispered. "You're not done yet. You're stronger than that." And the puppy moved again. As dawn crept in through the frost-covered windows, the puppy slept, still weak, but alive. Wrapped tightly in blankets, his tiny chest rose and fell with effort. Jake hadn't left his side all night. His eyes were tired, but his mind was clear. "I'm taking him home," he said quietly. The crew looked up. No one argued. They saw it too. The bond already forming, the silent promise Jake had made hours ago. He had rescued the pup, but something about the way he cradled him now made it clear. The rescue went both ways. They all gathered around for one last look. Someone chuckled softly. "We gotta name him." Jake glanced down. The puppy shifted in his arms, letting out a soft sigh. "Ash," Jake said. "He came from the cold, but like fire, he's still burning." The others nodded. Ash had a name. And for the first time, a home. Jake's small apartment slowly transformed into a recovery ward. He set up a warm corner near the heater with blankets, soft towels, and a shallow bowl of water. Ash was too weak to stand at first, but Jake was patient. Every 2 hours, he fed him with a syringe, wiped his paws clean, and whispered words of encouragement like they were medicine. At night, Jake slept on the floor beside him, just in case Ash whimpered or needed warmth. Slowly, Ash began to respond. First with tiny tail wags, then with brief eye contact. On the third day, he stood, wobbly and unsure, but proud. Jake clapped like a proud father. As the days passed, so did the silence in Jake's life. He found himself talking to Ash constantly, about the firehouse, about Max, about how sometimes life gives you second chances when you least expect them. Ash listened, always alert, always near point. One morning, Jake found Ash curled at his feet, sleeping soundly, his tiny head resting on Jake's old fire boots. It hit him then. This wasn't just a dog he'd saved. Ash had brought light back into a place Jake didn't even realize had gone dark. They were healing together. By the end of the month, Ash was a completely different pup, stronger, bolder, and full of energy. His fur had thickened, his eyes were bright, and he followed Jake everywhere like a shadow. When Jake grabbed his keys in the morning, Ash would trot to the door, tail wagging, ready to ride. The firehouse welcomed him back like a hero. The once frozen puppy now had his own corner near the main desk, complete with a food bowl, blanket, and a stuffed Dalmatian toy one of the crew had bought him. Ash became a part of the team. During school visits, he sat proudly beside Jake, letting nervous children pet him while they listened to fire safety tips. He had a calming effect, even on the most anxious kids. It was as if he knew exactly who needed comfort. The guys at the station swore he could sense when a call was coming in. He'd perk up seconds before the alarm rang. And when the trucks pulled out, Ash waited by the door, eyes fixed until they returned. He wasn't just a rescue anymore, but he was family. Ash had found his place, not just in the station, but in every heart that beat within it. One little girl wrote, "Ash is my hero." People came by just to meet him, leaving with hugs, smiles, and sometimes tears. Ash wasn't just a dog anymore. He had become a symbol of hope, resilience, and the quiet power of unexpected love.